Your reaction to the reports that we're getting of 2 more hostages being released by Hamas?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. First, obviously, I'm very happy to know that we got reunion, at least of 2 of the hostages. We got 2 other last week, American citizens. We still have, as you said, like 222 Israeli and non-Israeli foreign nationalities hostages held by Hamas. Look, Hamas, ISIS is playing a very viciously card, which is the card of the hostages. He is basically doing what I call the salami system, basically gradually in a dropping style manner, releasing here and there hostages, while the international community, obviously, and rightly so, demand Hamas to immediately release the hostages. Hamas is holding babies and kids and women and old people. You just mentioned the couple that need a medical treatment, which of course is totally unacceptable. But Hamas, ISIS doesn't really play the game of international community. He plays his own rules. And what we see is yet another, vicious move by Hamas, who is playing viciously this card of the hostages, because he hoped that this will be his kind of like insurance policy against an Israeli upcoming military operation, or the decision to basically topple down Hamas rule in Gaza Strip.
Yeah. Can I just verify for our listeners why you call them Hamas ISIS? I mean, Hamas can be accused of committing ISIS-like crimes, but they are 2 separate groups, are they not?
They are 2 separate groups, but they have a couple of things that are common denominators, and it has to be understood. One thing is they both have a genocidal agenda. They call for the elimination of the Jewish people. By the way, they are calling also for the elimination of infidels. Infidels
but we have to be fair in our reporting, don't we? And it is important for me to point out that Hamas and ISIS are 2 separate groups. We know about the atrocities Hamas has committed, and I don't think we need to elevate those in any way. Let's just talk about the wider story that we're getting from Israeli television, and you, I'm sure, will have seen this as well, that there are discussions about potentially the release of more hostages, up to 50 dual nationals, brokered by Qatari. Again, we cannot confirm these reports, but I wonder if we consider that, Avi, and the reports we're getting of the 2 hostages released today by Hamas, can there be a good reason to assume that the ground invasion might be delayed by Israel in respect of these discussions, which are clearly going on and to a certain point have been successful?
Yeah, they released so far 4 women out of 222. If you call it successful, that's fine. Israel, yes, I mean, look, there are different reasons for this whole story of the ground operation, delay or not delay. I don't know to say, I don't have the blueprints of all these things, but I don't think that Israel necessarily has to work according to some kind of like an invisible watch. This is a complex situation that has many different moving parts. One of the elements is the military component of the whole story. But there are other things that has to be taken into consideration, like, for example, the need of the United States to secure its position and its strategic interest in the region, the issue of the international community, and as you accurately said, the whole story of the hostages, and so on and so on. I don't know to say necessarily that I will refer to a sort of like delay in Israeli ground operation, because I don't remember that anyone basically said on that date and that time we are going to start this ground operation, and that date and that time passed and nothing happened. It didn't. So I don't know to say if the term delay is the right term to use. And I would say that, we'll have to see how things will develop. I would say that I found it a little bit peculiar that the international community is satisfied with the fact that Hamas, after kidnapping babies and kids and women and old people, is very generously now releasing 4 women out of 222 civilians that he's holding. I think that this is something that is very puzzling.
Why is it puzzling?
Because it seems to me like that there is some misunderstanding on. Maybe there is a need to clarify. A terror organization is kidnapping babies and kids and women, holding them as a bargaining chip, and the world is supposed to be overwhelmed and thankful for Hamas for releasing every couple of days 2 women.
I don't think everyone's thankful about it. I think everyone's relieved about it. And, could this war end more quickly if the rest of the hostages are released? If they're released, does it prevent a ground invasion? Does it prevent fighting having to happen through intelligence, but also in underground tunnels as well? It's going to get very complex, isn't it?
It is already complex. Look, I mean, let's put things in what should be the right context to understand. Hamas, ISIS, and Islamic Jihad are terror organizations. They don't want peace with Israel. They vote to eliminate the state of Israel. They inflicted havoc and destruction and death upon both Israelis and Palestinians. Many factors in the region, Arab players loathe Hamas. They hold him accountable, and rightly so, for the disaster that he has inflicted upon Gaza Strip. Hamas couldn't care less, obviously, because it has its own agenda and it has its own objectives, which has nothing to do, of course, with peace and stability and prosperity. And this is the right context to look at the things. Now, I want to believe that following the October 7th barbaric, brutal attack of Hamas, once the mask is now fallen, and in the West, I hope, people realize that Hamas is no freedom fighter, but it's actually the twin brother of ISIS. There should be understanding that if people want to have future of hope for Israelis and Palestinians, radical factors like Hamas, ISIS, and Islamic Jihad should be out of the picture.
And I think there is a question there as to how that is done. How do you eliminate Hamas, but try and affect as little human collateral as possible in terms of the Palestinians, the Gazans on the ground there? Let's just talk about Israeli intelligence with you. This is your expertise. You spent many, many years covering it. Can we be confident that Israeli intelligence is up to spec again, let's just say, after its failure, which meant that it didn't identify the Hamas strike on October the 7th? Can we be confident in the Israeli intelligence service?
Well, this is one of the traumatic aspects of this whole story, because, up until October 7th, which was definitely a colossal failure of the intelligence and operational system, Israeli intelligence has been performing in sometimes in a way that people were jaw-dropping, because and in time, when people realized how efficient and sophisticated the intelligence was, the ability to reach in a pinpoint, enormously, precise, a chirurgical style operation to individuals, to terror leaders and others. People were really amazed by those abilities, and because of that, the trauma, the shock, is so much boosted. Because
can we be confident now, though, in Israeli intelligence and services?
Look, Israeli intelligence has an outstanding people, outstanding performances. It has been going and is going through a deep, situation of need to really revise concepts, maybe methods of activities, and so on and so on. I have no doubt that the Israeli intelligence will continue to be, as it always been, an outstanding.
But it does need some reform.
It does need some reforms. It does need some rethinking. It does need some reevaluation. We should always remember, in the intelligence world, we always say to ourselves, always question, what do you really know, and so and all, and so and so and all. And there are many questions that has to be asked. I'm sure that those questions will be asked. I just would say that, heads of intelligence, the major intelligence establishment in Israel, meaning the head of the Israeli security services, Shabak, and the head of the military intelligence, they both went out openly and publicly and say, we failed.
Yeah.
And they took responsibility.
Okay.